Welcome, everyone. For those of you who I know are listening live, thank you for doing so. We've got a completely new start to 2022. It's a conversation that we've been trying to organise now for about 9 months, and for all sorts of difficulties and COVID, it's been a real struggle, but we've got there. So first of all, I'd like to welcome Councillor Adam Jogee, who's the Mayor of the London Borough of Haringey. He and I know each other only through the internet, but simply because we have some connections with schools and universities we've both been to. And then joining us from the London Academy of Excellence, Tottenham, we've got 4 young students. We've got Mominar and Rihanna, and then we've got Johnson and Muna. They're having to be masked because we want to keep them safe, and obviously within schools, they're close to each other. So that's why they're masked up. And then finally joining us is our colleague Britt and friend and one of my partners at Let's Talk Leadership, and she's joining us from the Netherlands. So it's a happy new year to everyone, and we're going to get started. If you've got any questions you want to ask, anything you want to raise, then either put it in the chat, and it'll stream along the bottom of the screen, and we'll do our best to answer it. But what we're going to look at today is taking young people in the community. What are their leadership aspirations? What are their futures, and what do they want to do with their futures? Talk to Adam about, being a leader in a community, particularly in the difficult times we've been facing, and some of the challenges that brings to holding office and being a representative of the community. And then maybe just generally talk about leadership from a young person's perspective. And so that's where we're going to take it. Mominar and Rihanna and Johnson and Muna have, bless them, they've been practicing like mad, and we've had 1 or 2 dummy runs and tested things out, so all should go well. So I'm going to ask one of the students, if they will, first of all, just to give us a few words about what is the London Academy of Excellence at Tottenham.
London Academy of Excellence Tottenham is an academically advanced free sixth form in the heart of Tottenham. LAE Tottenham's principal education sponsor is Highgate School, and Tottenham Hotspur Football Club acts as the business sponsor. The objective is to give equally intelligent and talented students from what would be described as disadvantaged backgrounds and give them the same opportunities that would be given to more privileged students. The school often aims to uphold social responsibility and academic rigor through the level of higher education and the plethora of community projects.
Great, thanks, Muna. And tell me, do you get to run out on the pitch at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, or is it it's completely excluded to you for the moment?
Unfortunately not.
No. Okay, right. Well, thanks for that. And Adam, would you mind just telling us a little bit about your role and what you do as Mayor for Haringey?
Yes, well, hi, everybody. My name's Adam Jogee. I'm the Mayor of Haringey. Matthew noted it's taken 9 months. All good things come to those who wait. So we've got here in the end. And as I say to every person I meet every Friday when I swear in new British citizens, we've got there, we've done it. So I'm looking forward to a good conversation. Well, as you can see, I don't look like most politicians. I was 30 28 days ago. I'm Black, I'm from the Muslim community. So in Haringey, we're shaking things up a bit and showing that things can be done differently, but also the young people can lead and deliver. So I was elected to Haringey Council in 2014. I know this is meant to be an objective conversation, but I beat the Lib Dems, which was very enjoyable. Won my seat from them in 2014. I then held my seat against the Lib Dems and the Tories in 2018, and we have an election in May, so who knows what lies in store ahead for me and for the people of Hornsey. But I suspect my name will be on the ballot paper, assuming local Labour Party members in Hornsey are willing to choose me again. And it has been the most extraordinary 8 years. I was 22 in the middle of my finals at uni when I got first. But also politically. And I think the world has gone through some of the most extraordinary times in the last 8 years. And that obviously has had an impact on me and my ability to serve my community, and particularly now as mayor and this leadership position I hold as first citizen. So to be mayor is an interesting one, because in many ways everybody assumes I run the council. I have a nice bit of bling around my neck. We don't have a car, but every so often we use a posh car to go to things. And actually, the real reality of the fact is I have no power. The Constitution, Part 4 of Haringey Council's Constitution, refers to the mayor's responsibilities and duties. And they really are, in some ways, scripted to chair council meetings and to carry out some of the defined responsibilities. But where I think it's most important and actually more powerful, or most powerful, is the moral power that comes with being mayor. So I have no executive power. I can't make the decisions to close roads or to, change direction that the council takes. But what I can do is talk about issues that I think are important. I can shine a light on things that I think require focus. So it will be of no surprise to any of you watching and hopefully listening to me that I adopted Haringey's vaccination effort as one of my main focuses for my mayoralty. Why? Because as I was elected mayor I was elected mayor in October 2020. And one of the, in fact, the only thing that people were concerned about then was not dying from COVID, was keeping their families safe, and was trying to find a way through the crisis. So a few weeks afterwards, in fact, it'll be a year to the day tomorrow, the 14th of January, I made my first visit to the Tottenham Vaccination Centre on Lordship Lane and met Dr. Russell Hearn and his amazing team there. And I've been a associate member of the crew at Lordship Lane Vaccination Centre ever since, from cleaning seats to making tea to manning the observation room, which those of you who've been vaccinated with the Pfizer will know, the 50-minute waiting period. So that was my way of being both relevant, but I think also providing that community leadership to people across Haringey. And being a bearded Black British Muslim and young helped tap into some of those elements of our community where there was fear, there was a stigma. We'd hear things like some Muslim people in our community being told on WhatsApp videos and YouTube and others that the vaccine had gelatin in it, or that it would have an impact on a woman's reproductive system, or if she was pregnant, it would have an impact on the health of the child. There are issues around what it would do to sex drive for young people, so other young people concerned about what that would mean for them. So there are whole heaps of, frankly, lies. My other half is an ICU nurse, and she has been quite clear about the need to get the vaccine. And all of the supposed health risks weren't there, but they were peddled, and those fears actually did become ingrained. I mean, Haringey's vaccination effort 65% or thereabouts. And if you then unpick some of that data and look at the vaccination rates by community, it is ethnic minorities, it is those whose faith is Islam, or actually in some parts of South Tottenham, Judaism as well, who are still believing some of those fears and myths. So why is this so relevant? It's relevant because I use my role as mayor to help challenge some of those myths and to show that the only way to get through this crisis is by having the vaccine, but most importantly, we all have a responsibility to keep our neighbours safe. So that's kind of, I think, the most relevant example of how I've used my role as Haringey's civic leader to make shit happen, frankly, in a really crude sense, to get things done. And it has, been difficult. We've done things like, oversee when Prince Philip died and the various things that had to go with that. Although I've been advised not nearly as much as what would happen if a monarch dies. So long may Her Majesty reign. To being at the exam results days when people, as students, were getting their GCSEs and their A-level results in the summer. So it's an amazing opportunity to see the best of Haringey. I have seen some really amazing community organisations and groups who you just wouldn't know about. And if I'm a councillor 8 years down the line, still don't know about them, then it's very likely that people out in the community don't know about them either. So I guess, my role is, I've interpreted my role as being there in the good times and championing good things that happen, and providing support and respect in times of need. So I hope that's a relatively comprehensive answer to a short question, but no day is the same. And I think, just kind of to round it up, I've tried to make the mayoralty relevant and mean something to people, and not just be a crusty old white man, as as most of my colleagues tended to have been in years gone by.
Adam, great. Thanks for that. We've got a bit of background noise, but don't worry. So, Mohammed, Rihanna, Johnson, Muna, your three pennies worth. So, your response, or what do you feel about, the need for leadership in communities, and particularly in your own communities?
I don't mind quickly jumping in. I think I don't personally live in Tottenham, but definitely studying in Tottenham, you learn that, as Adam said, often the kind of people in power don't look like us. They're not from the same ethnicities or religions as us. And I think one of the biggest things about leadership kind of coming to this school is realizing that all of us have that same potential to be in those positions of leadership, like Councillor Adam. But kind of, just knowing our self-belief. And I think that's something that definitely within our college we're working on, to how people who are like us and from our ethnicities and backgrounds are able to be in these high positioned jobs.
Yeah, and anyone else? So Johnson, Muna, Rihanna. No, I mean, one of the themes that has often been shared in our conversations is a metaphor that a colleague of ours uses about elephants and mice. And broadly speaking, what she's saying is that if you belong to the elephant community, you don't need to worry about the mice because you don't even see them. You're not aware of the problems they have or the things they do. If you're a mouse, in other words, a small community within a much larger one, you need to become very, very knowledgeable about the wider community you live in, because it impacts you far more seriously. And I just wanted to ask the question, in the communities that you live in, what are some of the leadership issues for you, either at the academy or in the communities you live in? What are some of the things that you'd like to see change or be different about the way people lead our local communities?
So I think the problem that needs to be solved is youth tend to feel unrepresented, and like their voice isn't being heard when it comes to situations that are going to affect us in the long run. And I believe that in the future, what should happen is when big decisions are being made, they should get the input from all people, from young people and old people, to ensure that the rules that they're making and trying to input are fair for all people and aren't going to affect us negatively in the future. Because to be honest, we are the next generation, and we don't want to live in an area in a time where, we're dealing with the consequences of actions that were made years ago because our inputs and opinions weren't being taken. So
Rihanna, how do you think you could develop that opportunity? What influence could you bring to bear as a young person living in the community and growing up in your community, bring to bear to bring those sort of changes about in attitude and thought and way things are done?
I think this is something that should start from school. So I think that we should have maybe programs in school, service development. This could be something that could happen in youth clubs. And as we go through these programs, they develop our confidence and allow us to be firm in our opinions. And when it comes to things like the government or politics, because our confidence has been built up from things such as programs in school, we'd be able to speak up about our opinions.
Yeah, great. And Johnson, Muna, what do you feel? You need to come off mute. Sorry.
Expanding on Rihanna's point, I feel as if obviously growing up when I was younger, there used to be quite a lot of youth clubs, and that as time went on, that was kind of like eradicated. I feel like we need to introduce that once again. It gives confidence to kids, it gives confidence to teenagers. I mean, it like, even though in school we have a lot of community projects, yeah, I still want to integrate with people outside of school and within my community, and get to know how everyone's feeling. So
yeah, and also letting kids know from a young age that positions of leadership are attainable for them regardless of where they're from and what is around them.
Yeah, I mean, Britt and I have spent our careers working in leadership development, admittedly with adults rather than with young people. But one of the things that we've always promoted, is that you're not born a leader. Leaders come from within us. We can all develop leadership skills and attitudes that help us to influence other people for the better. You know, it's not a God-given right of any particular person or community to be in that position. It just so happens that people like me, older, white, boring old farts, are the people who tend to end up in a lot of those leadership positions just because we are in the majority. But, you know, the wonderful thing about, I think, about your academy is that you are pulling in students from right across the community. And just by, you know, how you're represented today is just, it is the future. It's not me, it's not my sort of person, it's not my background that's important any longer, it's yours. Adam, what are your thoughts on what you've just heard from the students?
No, I think they're all completely bang on. And I think Rihanna's point about looking like the community is such a powerful one. Representation matters. And if people don't look at their political leaders and think they understand me, they know me, my background, my issues, my concerns, and my needs, it can be very difficult for people to feel that they can place their trust in them. And I think that's what me serving as mayor, I mean, I was 28 when I got elected. As it happened, I wasn't the youngest mayor in Haringey's history. I was the second youngest. Some guy pipped me by 6 months 30 years ago, but we'll ignore that. Who no one knows who he is anyway, so who cares? You know, clearly didn't make much of a mark. But no, in all seriousness, he's a nice man. But the serious point though is, someone like me serving in this role at my age shows that anybody else can do it. I went to local Haringey schools. I feel sure that I wouldn't have been elected to the council at 22 unless I'd had the benefits of growing up in Haringey, or at least if not in Haringey particularly, then North London and the diversity that comes with it more generally. And so I very much am a product both obviously of my family upbringing and my family influences, but also the lessons and experiences I've had and picked up from living here, growing here, and learning here. I think that's a really important point. And then I think, Matthew, your point just there about all of us can be leaders is a really powerful one. I mean, I for sure am a better politician now, 8 years later, than I was when I got elected. I feel more comfortable in my own skin. I am more willing to push back. I think when I was first elected, I was very young, younger than my little brother is now, and I view him as, you know, at 23 as a young person. So when I think about it, it's crazy, really. But I probably thought the best way to succeed and to do well and to be taken seriously was to try and be everyone's friend and, you know, to always volunteer. And actually, that's not how the world works. And it's being true to yourself, what you believe, remembering why you're there, actually results in you becoming a better, more popular person, as it were, because people know that you're not just going to, you know, swing with the wind. You're actually there because you have a set of values, a plan, a set of ideals, a vision that you want to make happen. And I think I probably also was growing up while holding this role in a way that other people don't. So, you know, I learned a lot about myself and how I work, what motivates me, how I get things done, if that makes sense. So there was also like a personal growth thing as much as there was a political leader growth thing taking place. But the central point remains, which is anyone can do the job I'm in, as long as you're willing to put your head above the cloud, put your hand up, and are willing to, you know, put the time, effort, and sacrifice into earning people's trust. But anyone can do it, and I'm looking forward to. There's only 4 of you on my screen, but I'm looking forward to whoever's watching one day. If it's not you in the next 10 years wearing this chain, then someone very soon afterwards.
Yeah, and picking up on that last point, Monomer, Rihanna, you know, Johnson, Luna, you've mentioned the need for things to change. So how do you see yourselves as the instrument of change? You know, it's one thing for all of us to be able to say, oh, I wish it was like this, or I wish it was like that, or I wish that was happening. But as Adam's pointed out, it needs someone to step up and say, I'm not only think this needs to change, but I'm going to do something about it, however small that action is. So any things that you feel, sort of looking forward to your futures, that you could influence by actions that you could take? Well, perhaps you're doing it already at the academy.
I think definitely places like LAE Tottenham kind of provide you with that stepping stool to know how you want to progress in the future. This week we went to 90 of us went to Oxford and Cambridge, and kind of looking at, like you said before, it's easy to say, oh, I want this change, or I want to go to this specific place, but actually doing it is quite a different thing. And I think for me personally, coming to a place like LAE Tottenham has taught me to definitely step out of my comfort zone, because I think when it comes to leadership, your confidence is kind of majority of it. You kind of think in your head, I can't do this, or I'm not as good as other people. But I think once you know that that's a voice in your head and it's not what everybody else believes, I think that's kind of the first key to being able to progress forward.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good point you're making there, and it also goes back to I guess to what Adam said about moral power. I guess when you start to get a clearer picture of who you are and who you want to be and how you want to communicate that, then if you've got firm opinions and firm values and a firm set of beliefs, and you learn how to express those, and Adam, maybe you want to comment on that as well. I think it should be easier for a politician to earn that trust. The word trust was used twice. To earn that trust, when people do see that you don't swing with the wind and that you stand for what you stand, you say what you do what you say.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. But I mean, there's two things actually, just reflecting and listening to Rihanna's point, and that's around, I think gender plays a really important role actually, and as does age. And I say this, I'm a man, so it's not for me to mansplain or to tell a woman what to do, how to do it. But I've definitely noticed, observed, seen, actually experienced, I guess, behavior from older men who talk down to, speak over, don't recognize, don't listen, absorb, acknowledge the contributions that women at their same level, so that's Sandra, who's a very strong woman who helps on the screen, who helps in the mayor's office, but who don't help deliver that fair, kind of balanced, equal environment for people to thrive in. And I think what's really interesting is I noticed that behavior, and you kind of call it out. And I think it's a generational thing, whereas men older, 20 years older than me, wouldn't necessarily see or notice what's going on in that. So I think there's a really important point, which is, particularly if you're a young woman interested in politics, don't let anyone talk over you. Don't let anyone make you feel you shouldn't be in that room. Don't let anybody make you feel that you don't have the absolute right to succeed, thrive, and lead ultimately. Because I spend, and it's really interesting, and I reflect on this quite often, and I definitely think it's because of my age and my generation, where now not only are men and women certainly should be viewed as equal, actually think about many of the circumstances when men are in positions of leadership and things go wrong, it tends to be men, right? So if anything, we need more women in positions of leadership to kind of get our country back on track. But even if you stop at the equal basis, there are so many instances and examples I've had where I've had to say to women older than me, of course it's a good idea for you to run for mayor, or why wouldn't you speak in this meeting when you've got a really good story to say, or why aren't you putting your head above the parapet when you're damn sight more experienced than John is, but John's just been around longer than you, so therefore you clearly think that he should have a say and you shouldn't. So I think the gender point's a really important one. And I think which I wanted to get on record, and I think the other thing around morality and trust and just finding the place where you feel comfortable in who you are, what you're about, and why you're doing it. I think each stage is different for each person. I had to go through lots of difficult things before I realized that I probably wasn't as confident in what I was doing as I should or could be, if that makes sense. And I think you have to go through difficult experiences or feel you're making difficult votes and people thought, or whatever kind of tough political thing to happen for you to say, hold on a second, actually, I don't feel comfortable doing this. And I need to take a step back and do what I think is best in the interest of me, but also more importantly, the people who elected me on whatever issue it may be. And I think it comes to people. That's not meant to be a fudge bit, but I think you have to kind of, you can't say do X for you to feel comfortable. It's kind of, you get engaged, you listen to people like me who've done it, hopefully, and pick on some of the points I've said to avoid doing, to speed up the process to feeling comfortable and safe. But I think if you're a younger person, it's finding your way through. I mean, I remember things like, for example, he's dead now, but I'm in the building named for him, a guy called George Meehan, who was lead the council several times. And I remember saying to me, always read every piece of paper ahead of your meeting you go to, because it's in the papers and the documents where all the information, the facts, the figures are contained. And people will come to a meeting, they'll put the paper down, they won't take you word for word, they'll tell you what they want you to take away from that conversation. And so it's things like that. It's knowing your power. It's making sure you're prepared, that you are in control of the fact that you are ready to fight tooth and nail, because that's how you show A, what you're worthy of, but B, it shows why you're there and what you're there to do.
So,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, Adam. So picking up on that point, I'm going to throw it back to our colleagues at the London Academy of Excellence. So are there some examples where recently you've done something or had to do something that you felt a bit uncomfortable about, not because it was putting you in a difficult position, but it's something new. It was something that was a little bit challenging. Maybe you had to say something or take part in something or influence the outcome of something. And you felt uncomfortable, but then actually, when you did it, it all seemed to be okay. You seemed to have learned from it and you thought, yeah, I can do that again. We seem to have lost the other two for the moment, but
I think, while we get the others back, I think we both have one. So for me, it was our college right now is very hot on kind of sexual abuse and the impact of like feminism and things. And I'm part of FemSoc, and me and another 2 year 13s were involved in the college board meeting. So it was with our head teacher, the deputy heads, and then our governing board. And kind of presenting as the young people of the school how we wanted to see change implemented in regards to females' rights and also the sexual misconduct within our communities. And it definitely was one of those things that you kind of, it can be a very sensitive topic, and we kind of didn't know how people were going to take it. But once we did it, we realized how on board the teachers and the governing staff were, and in fact how they were really pushing to make this college a really safe, comfortable environment for everyone. So again, it kind of links back to before, that confidence. Yeah.
So how do you feel now that obviously you're still involved with it? How did you feel when you realized that actually you were influencing a group of people, you were achieving something?
It was kind of like a shocking moment, because I think as a young person, as a female as well, you kind of never think that things so big in terms of like leadership wise in your college you're ever going to make an impact on, and I think with LAET we also do a lot in our community. So it's knowing that not only your actions are going to impact your peers around you, but they're also going to impact the wider community as well. I think it's definitely like a wow kind of moment. Yeah. I don't know if I think Rihanna also had something.
Do you want to share, Rihanna?
I haven't really got a moment where I was nervous to do something and it ended up turning out fine. But I agree with what she said about the impact, about having an influence on people, because sometimes you think that things aren't going to turn out the way that you assume them to be. But I guess I could somehow relate it to COVID in a way, because I think, especially because most of us, when COVID hit, we were in year 10, 11. And when they said exams were cancelled, we were all in year 11 at the time. And I thought that, okay, that's I'm not doing my exams. I thought that I wasn't, because I really wanted to come to this school, and I didn't think I'd be able to, because I thought that my predicted grades weren't good enough to come to the school. However, I was able to prove myself. And of course, I'm here now, meaning that everything turned out the way I wanted it to be. But I guess sometimes we do tend to overthink things, especially as young people, because, like we haven't got that much experience in life. But maybe overthinking is something that we definitely need to try and, we need to improve in our confidence and have more self-belief.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that Britt and I, and we're working, as I say, with adults, often people who you would imagine are highly experienced and have been around quite a while in senior positions, trying to persuade them to just do something different, to step outside of the environment they've always been in and try something different, like you was just been talking about, is hugely difficult for some reason. They, we all of us get set in our ways, and so we would say that the very moment you speak up, the very moment you suggest something different, the very moment you say, yeah, I can do this, that's leadership. You might just be leading yourself, but other people see you taking that initiative and they say, well, hold on, if Rihanna can do it, maybe I can as well. Mm-hmm. Or if Ominar is involved in that program to do with young women and sexual health and harassment and all the other things that you've been talking about, maybe I can do it as well. Maybe I can join it. That's leadership. Mm-hmm. That's the point that Adam's making, that you step into, however small a step, you step into a position where you start to influence the outcome. Those are great examples. Johnson and Muna, I know we missed you because you had a connection problem. We were just asking if there was something that you've been involved with recently where it's been a bit risky for you. You've had to perhaps say something to someone that you weren't sure how they'd take it, or you had to join a group of people to make a change. And that we were just sharing examples. I don't know whether you've got any from your own experience.
Me and Johnson are both part of the Black Society, and we held some events during Black History Month. During the planning, we weren't really sure how it was going to go. We had like a talent show, we had like a trivia night, and all of this in order to raise money for Sickle Cell Society. We weren't sure how the school was going to respond to it, but after a while, we realized that it gained a lot of traction. A lot of people were very passionate about it, and we ended up raising like how much?
Like 700.
About 700 for Sickle Cell Society. And yeah, that was definitely something that we thought was a great achievement for the school and for us.
And how did you feel about it? Obviously it's ongoing, but how do you feel about it, having taken that initiative? How's it made you feel?
Well, I guess relief, because obviously it's something that we're both really passionate about, but we did have that sense of apprehension beforehand, knowing whether people would listen or actually participate, and knowing that we just ignored that, went through it for anyways, and it was a success. It's like relief that, we didn't doubt ourselves and it turned out well.
Mm-hmm.
And Britt, we'd define that as leadership, wouldn't we?
We would absolutely define that as leadership, because it's like stepping outside of something that you're used to and doing something that is slightly challenging. And relief is a good word. That's very often, that's what accompanies people when they think, wow, I pulled it off. And you'd be surprised at how many people who are way older than you still feel that same way. Yeah.
Adam, any response or any thoughts?
You're on mute.
I'm muted. No, I've just been scribbling down some thoughts. I mean, I think the one good thing is that you've all given examples, as Britt and Matthew both said, of being leaders, and whether it's in the Black Society or whether it's looking at trying to make schools safe for women and girls who study and work there. There are examples that you're already doing of leading, and there are so many different examples of it. I mean, there's political leadership, which obviously I would know most about, but there's leadership in the home when it comes to parents and families and carers. There's leadership in schools and amongst students, as you've all demonstrated. And then there's kind of, I guess, the personal leadership, the example setting that we all can do in different ways at different times, whether it's wearing a mask properly when we go to the shop, and you four are expert adverts of safely following the guidelines that remain in place. And so I think my plea to everyone who's watching, and I'm sure you'll wear your masks too, if you're with other people, is to just think about, as you go about, your daily lives and your business, look at your peers and see how they're leading and making a difference, but also see how you can, what you're doing, and realize that you are leading already. You may not think it may not be getting the focus that mine does as an elected councillor, but actually yours is as important as mine. My leadership is in a different way, because it provides a function to some part of our society as mine does, as I say, in a different way. So I guess just reflect on that and think about that, and see how you can expand it and help it grow to to other parts of all of our lives. I think that's probably the most important reflection. So I don't want to say the same things as all of you. So that's my reflection on what you've just said.
Thanks, Adam. So I'm going to throw it back to our 4 young colleagues. Looking ahead, you know, you're going to be finishing at the academy either this or next year. You're then moving hopefully into something that you want to do, whether it's higher education or whether it's into a job. What are your aspirations from a leadership point of view? You know, if you can throw yourself forward by 5 or 10 years, because that takes you into sort of Adam's age category when he started his political leadership, you know, throwing yourself forward by 5 or 10 years, what would you like to be doing? What impact would you like to have in either your family, your work, the sort of ideas and aspirations that you've got?
So when I'm finished with sixth form, I hope to study medicine at university. And in the aspect of leadership, I hope that I'm able to be a person who holds myself accountable for any wrongdoings, and I'm able to delegate responsibilities. And I think that with practice and mentorship and support and coaching, that I'll be able to demonstrate leadership qualities. Because as I want to be a doctor, like I said, doctors are people that need to express leadership qualities because they are people of high authority that people look up to. And I don't think you can be a doctor without leadership quality, because people won't give you the respect that you want. So I think it's very important for me to have those traits in order to become what I want to do.
Great. How about you, Momina?
With me, I kind of hope to progress onto a natural science degree. And I think if I look like 10 years into the future, I'd love to be working with like public health or WHO. I think since the pandemic, definitely realizing that it's kind of a new and emerging area for people to work in. And I think since I'm like looking back on the pandemic, I think there were a lot of things that could have been done differently. And especially as somebody from the BAME community, looking at kind of the communication between like policy making and then actually being like a citizen that is affected by it, because I think there can be quite a disconnect. So yeah, I'd love to kind of just represent my community and kind of ensure that going forward, BAME citizens are kind of always at the forefront.
Great, thank you. And Johnson and Muna, how about yourselves? We've still got connection problems, issues, I think. Can you hear us, Johnson? No, we're still struggling. I think maybe we'll come back to them. I'm conscious of time, so what I'm going to do is, Adam, can I first of all thank you for taking part today? And I know you're a busy person, and you've expressed your views openly and clearly in terms of the challenges that you've had to face and what you do. I know Ife in the background has been very, very busy trying to organize all of this. So I want to say a thank you to her. She's not appeared on the screen, but she's been in the background sort of organizing all of this. Momina and Rihanna, good luck with everything. And speaking as an old white male, when I was your age, there was no mobile phone, there was no digital technology. When I started my first job, I had a PA who was a woman, because women were expected to type and men were expected to talk and dish out the orders. Thank God that's all changed. I spent a year in Saudi Arabia, and the only communication was to drive 6 hours in a truck to make a phone call, but somehow we survived. And now seemingly we can't live without the communication technology. So anything that you can do to make the world a better place based on your own career aspirations is going to be fantastic. So good luck with all of that. And Johnson and Muna, can you still hear us? Have you been able to get things right? You've come off mute. Yeah, can you hear us? No, still connections, but thank you both as well for contributing, and good luck with everything. Good luck with whatever you decide to do. And Adam, any final word from you?
Well, I'm just reflecting there, Matthew, when you said there's no digital technology when you are age. So I suppose by that basis, cars will be driving themselves and all the rest of it when we're giving the same advice and support that you are. Look, one of the best things that I've done as mayor over the last 18 months, and it has been difficult because of the pandemic, has been meeting young people and going to schools. Because I'm reminded of the breadth and depth of talent in our community, but also I've left each school inspired and reassured that the future is safe in the hands of those who come after me. And so this is another example of that for me. And as I say to every school I go to, aim high, work hard, and good luck.
Great. And Britt, any final comment from you?
Aim high, work hard, and good luck. I was still thinking about that. A final word for me would be that if you are don't think you have nothing to say just because you are not by nature a very outgoing or bubbly or exuberant person. Some of the best leaders are actually introverted people with a preference for quiet reflection and a calm voice. And those people have enormous value in a community as well. So if you're a quiet voice yourself, listen to yourself and your quiet voice. And if you know people who have quiet voices, listen to them.
Great. And on that happy note, thank you all for taking part. Adam, thank you very much indeed. Mominar, Rihanna, Johnson, Amuna, thanks, and everyone who's been watching at the LAET. We'll keep in touch.
Matthew, can I just say one last thing? Sorry.
Please do. Please do.
As a typical politician, if there's anybody who's watching who has any questions or wants to say anything to me and didn't have a chance, send me an email or get in touch. I'm always happy to welcome people to the Mayor's Parlour. And I'm mayor until at least May, so give me a shout if I can ever help.
Well, good luck with the elections in May, and thanks for that offer.
If you fancy leaflets, give me a shot.
Take care and look after yourselves.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.